I'm going to record the session. Okay.
Yeah.
As mentioned to you before, we are going to discuss the second assessment because I believe everyone has submitted the first assessment. Okay. So this is the brief of our. This is this assessment to brief. Okay, that we can download from the portal. And if you look at that, it is actually developing an international business strategy. So eventually, we are writing a business plan for our international business. Okay. Now, these are the objectives that we need to include in our assessments or the objectives of the assessments. Okay. Now, the main point I'd like to highlight to you include this one here. So we are working in a group. Okay, because we need to develop a business model or business strategy to enter to a new international market. Okay, in the previous one, we select them. We select in the assessment one. We select which market that the organization that we want to focus on, and which markets that we want to penetrate. Okay, and out of, let's say, 2 markets, we should nominate 1 market in the previous assessment. Okay. Now, the second part is actually the continuation. So I understand that you may work you may work on different organizations in assessment 1. So you need to discuss with your team members. Okay, in terms of which organization that you want to select. Okay. So these are the elements that we need to include in our assessment too. Okay, rational, propose a business model, reasons, okay, for the decision, and market entry strategy, which is the key point, and risks, okay, and develop the strategy. Okay. Now, if you look at that, this is the marking criteria, basically, pretty much similar to the previous marking criteria. Okay. Now, I have prepared the advice. Now, this is the advice I've prepared, and I actually have uploaded this advice to the Dropbox folder. So if you access the Dropbox folder, you will be able to find this advice. Okay. So these are the elements that we need to include in our assessment. Okay. So I just tried a bit of note in here. Assessment 2 is the continuation of assessment 1. However, again, please discuss with your team members to decide the organization you plan to focus on. Okay, and make sure there is only, I'll just type in here, only 1 member uploads the assessment. Okay, so don't allow the second member to upload the assessments. Okay, so that's the thing that I'd like to highlight to everybody. And in terms of relevant tools or concepts, we've discussed them actually. So pretty much the situational analysis. So you can bring the previous analysis, you paraphrase the previous analysis to your assessment too. Okay. Segmentation analysis, targeting analysis, positioning analysis, business objectives, okay, and business strategy and program. So they are the tools that we need to bring. Okay. Now, look, there are some marketing components I'd like to discuss as well. Until we, you may have discussed this in your previous subjects, the marketing MGT611 marketing units, but I'm going to bring them back in our discussion here because the marketing component is also one of the things that we need to include in our analysis, okay, as part of our entry strategy to these new markets. Okay, so they are the tools that we need to include. Now, how do we structure our second assessment? Well, executive summary. In the previous one, we don't include the executive summary, which is fine because we just do the analysis. Okay, this one or that one. Okay, now this one we include the executive summary. And look, executive summary, just want to highlight, I am sure that you're aware that the executive summary, what the executive summary is all about. I just want to highlight a little bit of note in here to help guiding people, okay? So we do this at the last, or let me just write this at the last, okay? Because you will not be able to summarize it until you complete all other sections, okay? make sure that you include the specific key findings. Okay, key findings of the analysis. Okay. Now, what is the this document all about? It is the entry strategy. So you want to include the objectives. You want to include a brief background. You want to include the objectives, and you want to include a brief strategic initiatives in your executive summary. Okay, so that's the executive summary. Now the next one is the introduction. So this is again briefly the previous analysis of your from your assessment one. Just paraphrase it and condense that because you have word limit. Explain the context of the organization. Okay, introduce the winning market that you select. Okay, from assessment one, you introduce the winning market. This is the winning market. Let's say if you select India, for instance, the winning market is India. For argument's sake, you explain briefly about India. India is the country, yada yada. Done. Okay. And then we need to discuss the macro environmental analysis. Now again. This one here is actually taken from the previous assessments. You paraphrase it. If you have done thorough analysis already, you paraphrase it too, because we are not going to be able to cover everything you condense them. We are not going to be able to cover everything in these assessments. If you look at the previous assessments in 2,500 words, you focus on macro and micro environmental analysis, so you need to condense them. Secondary data, I shouldn't use the term ABS. I just give you an example like the Ocean Bureau statistics or any publications, so on and so forth, industry report, okay, you need them. But of course, you need to adjust it to the local market, to the host market. If you select India, then you need to look at the data around India. You can also look at CIA World Fact Book. Okay, they do a lot of analysis as well. Okay, and then micro environmental actors such as the competitors. Okay, briefly your suppliers and so on and so forth would be something that you need to detail in here. Okay, the customers analysis, suppliers, and competitors. Okay, and then the entry strategy or mode of entry. How do you enter this market? Okay, so we expect that export is not the part of the equation. We are going to discuss the entry modes as well in the entry strategy tonight. Hopefully, I believe we still have time to discuss tonight. Okay, and then the SWOT analysis. Okay, and segmentation targeting analysis. This is part of the marketing analysis that we are going to discuss next few weeks. Business objectives and marketing strategy and programs, operational strategy, risk, and conclusion. Okay, what are the key findings? What are the things that we need to do to ensure that it is successful? Okay. All right, relate to the concepts. So again, when I say relate to the concepts, it doesn't mean that our report will be completely around concepts only. Okay, so it should be your research as well. It should contain your research. Aside from the book that the school has recommended, this is another one that I also would like to recommend. Use the tools that we discussed. Okay, for plagiarism policy, please consult the student's handbook. And in terms of similarity index, this is the target as a guide. Formal writing style, okay, formal writing structure. Refer to assessment brief for details. And assessment is due on Friday, 7th of December. Module 6. Well, this is Sydney time basically. Look, please note. I am fully aware that everyone is familiar with this. I just repeat this because I received a few emails from students asking me, okay, what's the consequence if I submit that late? So I just want to explain this briefly. Okay, late penalty applies. This is the school's policy, not my policy. I'm just the messenger in this instance. Okay, please don't shoot me. Okay, special consideration if you have misfortune events, okay, or extenuating situation, yeah, you can apply for a special consideration based on the school's policy. Please attach the undeniable evidence such as medical certificates. And I have also been advised by the school that work commitment is not misfortune events. Okay, all right. So that's basically our assessment 2. Any questions? All good?
No, not for me. All
yep.
good.
Yep. How about you, Davis? No, all good?
Yeah, it's okay.
Brilliant.
It's okay.
Brilliant. Have a look at the file that I uploaded. I have uploaded this file to the Dropbox folder, so you can download it on the from the Dropbox folder. All right. Now, what I'll do is now to discuss the to continue our discussion. Okay. All right. So we've discussed in the session last night. I discussed the entering foreign markets. Okay. So a few things in here. There are 3 decisions that we need to make: where to enter, when to enter, how to enter, basically. And you can again, as mentioned, as presented last night, you can also add with the who to enter, right? Who will lead? Okay, when you want to enter this market, because sometimes it is the person factor may make a difference as well. Okay, but I'll leave it to the human resources discussion. Okay, so just briefly, after we discuss the social capital, we discussed about the where to enter, basically to help us to help guiding our entry strategy. Okay, now this one here is actually about the location, as discussed as we discussed last night. Okay, so this is one of the things that we need to consider when it comes to where to enter. Okay, so a number of issues in here, like what is the advantages, right? Why we select this location, not that location, so on and so forth. Okay, and the strategic goals, for instance, look at the goal of the organization, whether it is more into the natural resource seeking firms, or market seeking firm, or efficiency seeking firm, or innovation seeking firm. So there are several measures that we can consider when it comes to strategic goals of the company. Okay, or cultural institutional distances. Some companies think about when they want to decide the markets that they want to enter, they look at the proximity, the culture proximity. Hey, this product is quite close to that product. This product is developed in our home market, which is basically affected by this social value, for instance. All right, which market that is quite close to our social value? Okay, that's a market. Market A and B would be potential for us because they're quite close in terms of culture values, for instance. Okay. And sometimes this is the one that I've discussed with a couple of students. Basically, sometimes our entry strategy is in stages. Okay, we penetrate one market and based on strong similarities, and then expand to the next market. Okay, or stages can also happen, like we penetrate that through export. Okay, and then in the next stage we think about a full operation. Okay, so I think Craig, it is also one of the issues that you brought to me last time, where okay, you got the operation ready, but it is a smaller scale of operation, and you want to think about how to expand it, which market that you want to expand for full operation. Okay, so that may happen as well in our operation in international business. Okay, right. All right, now the next thing that I'd like to discuss is the when to enter. Okay, when to enter is actually related to the first mover advantages. Okay, if we enter the markets, if we are the first one, we can claim the first mover advantages. Okay, which is basically about the benefits that that we can gain because we are the first one in that market. Okay, what kind of benefits? Well, we can make a preemptive investments. Basically, we can also that also give us some opportunities to build the learning curve. right? Remember, guys, when we expand the business, either from product management perspective or from market development perspective, like international business, in the international business context, we may have some learning curve, okay? We may have some, we may need to build the insights until we can get the formula. Okay, I think this is it. This is the formula, okay? So as the first mover, we have the opportunity to gain that insights first, okay? We gain the learning, and we also have the opportunity to build that connection with the consumers first before the other players come into the business, okay? So for instance, in terms of make a preemptive, the preemptive investments, Japanese companies developed the Keiretsu network, okay, which is basically the alliances of the Japanese businesses with local suppliers and distributors in Southeast Asia. So they have developed that kind of network, right? Being, you know, the first companies developing the business in this market, okay? So that's another advantage. That is the advantage of the first mover, okay? Well, as late mover, we also have the benefits, okay? Benefit of gaining the learning from the other company, okay? It can also compensate the fact that we are not the first company joining this market, basically competing in this market, for instance. Okay, so in terms of pioneering the investments, in Saudi Arabia, for instance, the Cisco invested millions of dollars, help officials grasp the promise of the internet, okay, in the fueling economic development. Then Ericsson came in to the market with lower cost solutions. So they learn from it, and then they develop a better solution. Okay, so that's the advantage of the late mover advantage. Okay, and the first mover also potentially needs to face the greater challenges, right? Like technological and market uncertainties. Okay, because they're the first one coming to the industry. They are building the industry. They are building the market. Therefore, they actually are. They actually need to manage these uncertainties. Okay. Right, so that's in terms of when. So both sides, either the first mover or the late mover, basically offers pluses and minuses. Okay. Okay, there you go. As a result, the both of them have advantages and disadvantages. Okay, so the learning from here is actually, if you are the first mover, then you need to be ready managing the uncertainties, right? The market changes and so on and so forth, the technological changes, right? The customers' preferences, and you build the market, you build the network with the distributors. For instance, you need to take that as a risk as well, okay? If you are the late mover, late entrant to that industry, yep, you don't get the benefit of building relationship with the customers in the first instance, because you're not first in that industry, but you have the opportunity to learn from that market, to learn from the first mover, and think about whether you can offer something better for the customers. Okay, I think so. You have the opportunity to evaluate it. That's the benchmark. The first mover has set the benchmark, and you have the opportunity to evaluate whether you can you can offer something better for the customers. Okay. All right. Now the next one is scale of entry. Okay. Scale of entry includes this one here, the amount of resources, okay, that we are committed when entering foreign markets. Okay, that means money, people, and time. They are the basic resources that we have: money, people, and time. Okay, and modes of entry. this is the one that that you need to include in your assessment too as well. What mode of entry that you need to consider? There are two types of modes of entry, and in this, for your assessment, you need to consider the second one, the equity modes. Okay, the first one is non-equity modes, which is basically relatively small commitments. Therefore, the risk is relatively small. And the next one is the equity modes, where you have a larger size of commitments. Okay, now let's have a look at this one. Okay, so if we split them into two groups, okay, non-equity modes and equity modes, or in other words, it is actually the foreign and direct investments. Okay, we have two options in terms of non-equity modes. We have the through export strategy or contractual. So we assign someone as the contractors, and this person, make it happen to the host market. Okay. And the second one is actually through the equity modes or foreign direct investment. There are two options in here, either joint venture or wholly owned subsidiaries. Okay, so you open new market, a Windows company or a subsidiary company in this in the host market. Okay, and yeah, that's part of the equity mode. Okay, so for you guys, please think about these two. Okay, the equity modes, either JV or wholly owned subsidiary company. Okay, for the second assessment. Okay, all right. Now let's look at them briefly. Okay, this one here is about the export, where we have the direct export and indirect export, where we have the agents, brokerage, brokers to perform the export business that we have. Okay, so we just ship everything to these agents. Okay, of course, since it is through export, we manage the risk to be quite low. Okay, in many cases, we can get the LC, letter of credit, when we ship the products to the customers. Okay. Or contractual agreements such as through licensing or franchising. Okay, where we allow the other parties to operate our business. Okay, for instance, Pizza Hut in Thailand, for instance, we allow these guys to operate our business. Okay, or McDonald's Indonesia. Okay. Or the next type of contractual agreements is the turnkey projects, where we have project where the client pay the contractors to design, construct new facilities, and they also train the personnel. Okay, and at the end of the project, the contractors hand the clients in the key to facilitate their ready for operations business. Okay? And constructions project. An example for that would be Mitsui, a Japanese company, for instance. They build, operate, transfer, or BOT in Morocco. When it is ready for operation, they hand it over to the Moroccan government. Okay. All right. Or R&D contracts may also happen in terms of contractual agreements. We outsource the agreements in R&D between firms. So we get that from the other firm as well. Drawbacks in here includes the racing competitors, because we need to brief them what we need from this company, and we may need to coach them, in quote unquote, may need to educate them in terms of what products that we need to develop. Okay, and it also depends on the other firm's capability. Okay, so that means we may lose our core R&D capabilities because we outsource the R&D capabilities to the other firms. Okay, right. So there are the contractual agreements. Any questions so far, guys? All good? Okay, brilliant. How about you, Davis?
Yeah, I'm okay.
Okay, fantastic. So these two are basically part of the non-equity in terms of entry mode. Okay. Now the next, the other one is from the contractual agreement. We also have the co-marketing. So we join forces. Okay, doing the co-marketing with another company, McDonald's, for instance. with toy makers and movie studios, for instance. So they jointly they join the forces for their products and services. Okay. Well, of course, we have advantages and disadvantages. Okay. In terms of the entry, the non-equity modes, okay, the big advantage in here includes the the risk. We manage the risk quite low because our level of commitment in terms of investment is also quite low. That is the major advantage. Well, the disadvantage in here is basically, we may have limited operations in this new market. Okay. Now the next one is JV. Okay, shared ownership. Okay, we can become the minority part of the minority owner. That means less than 50% ownership, or we can enter a 50-50 joint venture, or we can become the majority owner where we own the more than 50% ownership. Okay, so again, there are pluses and minuses with this type of ownership. Well, with minority ownership, we can't. We do not have the full control of the organization. Now, 50-50 joint venture. I think slightly we discussed this some time ago. Do we still remember the issue with 50-50, guys? 50-50 joint venture?
No, I don't.
Right. Okay. The 50-50 joint venture. Well, the benefit of that is we share the pain. Okay. If things go wrong, we share the pain with the other with our business partner. The problem is with 50-50, we may find the organization not, probably not decisive in making decision because especially if the decision includes the investments, for instance, right? These two parties may have looked at one to another, for instance. Okay, so that is the big challenge in terms of 50-50 joint venture. The other one is majority of the joint venture ownership. That means we take more than 50% ownership, okay, which is quite good. Well, of course, we take the larger bullet if things go wrong than our business partner because we own more than 50%, okay. Now, one thing that we also need to consider in terms of joint venture is our partner. We normally partner with the local company. They help us understanding the customers, understanding the network. So it's kind of the business is ready to go, basically. Okay, after we settle everything in the due diligence, okay, we sign the agreement in the joint venture. We can get the we can start the operation. Okay, we just need to adjust the organization, and after that, it's ready to go. We have the customer base, which is not easy in some instances. Okay, we got the platform to start our operation. Okay, in the case of joint venture. Okay, and of course, in terms of joint venture, like buying any other companies, we also need to be aware that there may be liabilities that the company needs to absorb, and that will become our liabilities as well. So that is something that we also need to be aware of when it comes to when we do the due diligence. Okay, right. Well, there are the advantages and disadvantages in terms of the the joint venture. Okay. The next one is the wholly owned subsidiary, or WOS. Well, we can consider two things in here. The greenfield operation, where we start from nothing, we start from scratch. Okay, we will build the factories, we build the office right from scratch. Okay, we build the organization structure, we hire people. Okay, we may want to start with the country manager or general manager in there, and hiring the sales reps and and the operation team to start the organization. After that, we going forward, we hire the other people as well in the organization. Okay, well, of course, it depends on what you need from the organization perspective. It depends on what you need. Okay, if it is a store that you retail industry that you launch, then obviously the key organizations, the key personnel must be there. The store managers, for instance, must be there to help you, building the operation. Okay, running the operation. Okay, that's greenfield operation. Acquisition is the next one, where we buy the company, we acquire a company. Okay. This is there are pluses and minuses in terms of acquisition. The acquisition offers us, a faster startup, basically, because the business is already in operation. Okay, that is good. Okay, because they're already in operation, and we just need to continue. We just need to shape that according to our culture. Right now, I need to highlight to you that shaping the culture probably takes a bit more time. Okay, because you need to adjust it, and you need to educate them, you need to adjust them, and you may want to train the key personnel in our head office so they can help us, informing this is the process that we want to be. This is the process that we want to undertake when it comes to this decision, and so on and so forth, right? But again, if we compare to with the greenfield operation, we start from nothing. In the case of acquisition, yes, we have we are ready to operate. Basically, after we sign the agreement with the company that we purchased, we are ready to go. Basically, okay. The downside of the acquisition, and there are several things that we also need to be aware of in terms of acquisition. The asking price needs to have some justification. So we need to also be aware of the standard that we can use when it comes to buying the company. Okay, and please bear in mind, like JV, we are also liable of the anything that the company owes to their suppliers and so on and so forth. For instance, okay, so that will become our liabilities. Okay, so that's acquisition. Well, normal in my observation in working with some global companies, we normally start with the JV, joint venture kind of. Okay, yeah, we like to form partnership, and after that, yeah, we kind of we like to operate in full, basically, and we can also discuss about increasing our ownership in that company to become a full acquisition, for instance. Okay, so yes, JV is considered as a starting point, kind of stepping the foot in the door, if you like, before we fully penetrate that company in that host market. Okay, right. So, guys, there are that's the advantages and disadvantages of the greenfield and also the acquisition. And please, I hope that helps your discussion when it comes to the entry mode to in your operation. You can consider, yes, we have a smaller operation now, and so yeah, we are going to adopt the greenfield operation. We just need to expand with this full operation. We're going to manufacture the products in here, and so on and so forth, for instance. Okay, any questions, guys?
No, nothing from me.
No, Davis, how about you, mate?
No, nothing to add.
Right. Okay, fantastic. Well, if you don't have any questions, thanks a lot for joining me tonight, and good luck to your assessments. And please have a look at the Dropbox folder. I have uploaded the advice for the second assessment. And yeah, I'll see you next week.
No problem. Thank you. Have a good weekend.
You too. Have a good weekend, guys. Okay, bye.
Thank you.